Radio off and running Wednesday morning, ESPN 93.5. You know by now, a grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, handed up indictments in the Trump-Georgia case. Former President Trump, a whole bunch of other people, 18 co-conspirators indicted by a Georgia grand jury Monday in charges tied to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Political strategist, commentator for Young Voices, Sofia Hamilton is in the swamp, but I trust you're not of the swamp, Sofia.
Oh, I'm definitely not. Thank you so much for having me.
How many parties do you get invited to?
None with people this important.
I mean, wouldn't it be hard? You're finding it out now that you're just on the outside looking in. 95% of the people in Washington support Joe Biden, so it's just maybe the convenience store guy. What do you think? Does anybody talk about it if you're not on the correct side?
I definitely don't think there's any animosity. I mean, this is a very political town, so everyone's very open to having debates, which, as a political person, I very much enjoy. But I've never had any negative experiences with people looking down on the views that I have.
Didn't your parents say, why don't you go to, like, Montana or North Dakota or South Dakota? Or there's a lot of red states out there you could...
Oh, they would have loved if I stayed in Florida, for sure.
Yeah. All right, Sophia, what was your whole take as a young voice in America?
So this was definitely a very interesting indictment. It was incredibly long. It came after a 2-year-long investigation, so I've been looking out for this, and it's very, very detailed, very in-depth. There's a lot of information to go through. It's like almost 100 pages long, and it's a lot. So Trump and 18 other individuals have been indicted on racketeering charges. I was looking into Georgia's racketeering law that they're indicted under, and it's a bit interesting. Normally it's used to go after gangs, mafia members. So it feels like a bit of a stretch, but when you look into the legal language, I understand how it was applied to this case. But it's definitely a bit more of a serious indictment than the other 3 that are currently against Mr. Trump. So I think it would be interesting to see what comes of this.
The problem I have, and it's an underlying huge problem, is that it does not feel like equal justice under the law. Don't you think Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or somebody, they met with people saying, how many votes short are we? That's kind of a violation, isn't it? I mean, what if you shared numbers with people to call? That's a violation. I mean, they got them on every aspect. They're just throwing everything in. It's just like, okay, well, if you go back to all these contested elections beginning in 2016, actually beginning in 2000, Gore v. Bush, you're saying, well, where can we get more votes? That's illegal. I mean, so it doesn't. It's not the same. So you really can't hit one and not the other. That's my problem.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with that. I think there's a lot of issues going on in our government where people aren't treated fairly, and I'd really like to see all of those go through the courts and go through fair trials. So this was an incredibly long investigation with a special grand jury, a grand jury, and now it'll go into a jury trial. So I'm hoping that there is a fair trial and that those people can have a look at all of the evidence and give their opinions, and that we will have more knowledge of what's going on and we'll feel better about our election system, because I think that's what's most important here, is that we know that our votes count.
Well, that's right, and we also don't want a country where you don't feel like it's fair. I mean, he's probably going to get convicted. If you have 95% Joe Biden in Washington, D.C., is that a good place to have a Donald Trump trial? Because, I mean, it's all Biden. It's all Democrat. So the jury pool, how do you sort through a jury pool in Washington if you're Donald Trump?
So my understanding is this trial is supposed to be held in Georgia. I know that some people from Trump's team are trying to get it taken up to a federal court, and I mean, just looking at that logistically, that would probably be more in his favor since he has appointed federal judges, and he may be able to get a more favorable ruling for himself. But I think at this moment in time, the jury for this indictment won't be held in D.C., but there is a separate D.C. indictment.
That's what I mean. I meant that. I was talking about the D.C. one, but no. Listen, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be. Well, we ought to go where it's more favorable. It should be the same. Lady Justice. I thought there's a blindfold on her with the scales and everything. Wasn't there a blindfold? Or is she peeking? You can't do that. Sofia Hamilton, how can people connect with you and your organization?
Yeah, so I'm active on Twitter at Sophie Hamilton, and you can follow me there, and I'm constantly posting my views and my work.
You get a call from your mom saying, honey, don't say that, honey. Why would you? Why would you?
I'm sure she's listening.
Yeah, well, listen, we appreciate it very much, Sophie. Thank you. Sophie Hamilton, ESPN 93.5. She was in Washington, D.C. this morning. It is 7.